Committee on the 12th of November 2025. Councillor Allison, I'm not seeing you present. I can see that we have present Councillors Anderson, Barker, Chalmers, Clark. Councillor Cooper, I'm not seeing you present. Councillor Dewar is also present. Councillor Equi, I'm not seeing you present. Apologies from Councillor Fagan. I can see that Councillor Gowland is present. Apologies from Councillor Hamilton. Councillor Keat, I'm not seeing you present. Councillor Lambie, I'm not seeing you present. Councillor Lockhart, I'm not seeing you present. Also present today are Councillors Loudon, Mars and MacDonald. I have apologies from Councillor McDougall, but I can see that Councillor Cowan has joined as a substitute. Councillor Nugent, I'm not seeing you present. Also present today are Councillors Ray and Razak and Rob. Councillors Ross and Scott are also present. Councillor Thompson, I'm not seeing you. Councillor Toner, I'm not seeing Councillor Toner. I have apologies from Councillor Walker, and I can see that Councillor Williams has joined. We have a number of officers in attendance, and with that, I'll pass back to the Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we begin the agenda, I need to advise the committee that in terms of Standing Order 4C, I've agreed to the consideration of an urgent item of business which will be considered at that item on the agenda. On the 6th of November, the Scottish Government launched a public consultation on the draft climate change plan. This plan outlines the policies and proposals required for Scotland to achieve its goal of ending its contribution to global greenhouse gas emissions. The consultation is open for responses until the 29th of January 2026. The item is being considered as urgent business as the committee won't meet again until the 11th of February 2026. And with that, we'll move on to the first item on the agenda, which is declaration of interests. Are there any declarations of interest? John Anderson.
Thanks, Chair. It's not a declaration of interest. It's just to say to the clerk that Carol Nugent is having conferral problems. She is trying to get into the meeting. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Ross Clark.
Thank you, Chair. Just for clarity on that urgent business, on what the item or what we would be agreeing to is, and if we will receive an email containing what the item actually is.
Yeah, there will be. Alison Brown.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Yes, the intention is to send out an email to all members with details of the consultation and an opportunity for members to provide comments to officers for to include within our submission, and also it is intended that a draft response will be circulated to members before the submission date on the 29th of January, so that you've got visibility of that. Unfortunately, it's one of these issues around timings of committees, and we've had this issue before, and we'd given a commitment previously that we would send out an email providing you with an opportunity to make comment and also to see a draft out with the committee cycle. We will then come back formally to committee in due course with the finalised position.
Councillor Clark.
So I'm not trying to discuss the item before we get to it, we're just clarifying. So we're being asked, when we get to it, we'll be asked to note the consultation and that officers will prepare a response. We're not going to be asked to agree a response just now?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, there'll be a verbal report today, okay. And then, as Alison said, there'll be further communication by email with the details.
Okay, if something, yeah, aye, okay.
Okay, thanks. I don't see anybody else, so we'll move now to item number 2, which is the minutes of the previous meeting. That's on pages 5 to 12. I'll move that as a correct record.
To second that.
Okay, thank you very much. We all agreed? Yeah. Okay, so now it's item number 3. Now, this is to be, it was to be a presentation from Sage Coons. We are expecting Sage to be here today, but she's not yet arrived. So we'll defer this item to later on towards the end of the agenda. And if she's unable to be here during the meeting, then we'll move the item to a future meeting. Okay, so we'll skip now to item number 4, which is the Public Bodies Climate Change Duties Annual Report 2024-2025, and that's on pages 13 to 44 of the pack. And I'll invite Catherine McCafferty to speak to this report, please.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to present the Council's annual Public Bodies Climate Change Duties Report for 24-25. Section 3 provides the legislative background and the Council's duties under the Climate Change Scotland Act 2009 and the Climate Change Bill September 2019. The Act and the Bill places duties on all public bodies in Scotland to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, adapt to a changing climate and to act sustainably. Public bodies are required to prepare annual reports on their compliance with these duties and publish and submit these reports to the Scottish Government. The report is based on a template issued by the Scottish Government and contains 6 sections. 1, a profile of the reporting body. 2, a section on governance, management and strategy. A section on emissions, targets and projects. Section 4 is on adaptation and Section 5 is on procurement, and then the validation section. A full copy of the draft Climate Change Duties report for 24-25 can be found in Appendix 1. The information contained in Section 4 of the report details how the Council is assessing and adapting to the impacts of climate change. The strategies and plans relevant to this include the Sustainable Development and Climate Change Strategy, Risk Management Strategy, Local Development Plans, Local Transport Strategy and the Biodiversity Strategy. Section 4.4 of the covering report provides some highlights of this year's report, including there is a robust climate change and sustainability governance structure led by the Climate Change and Sustainability Committee and supported by the Steering Group and Officers Group. A carbon emissions reduction of 70% has been reported in 24-25 compared to the baseline year of 2005. A new integrated impact assessment process has been developed and implemented in 2024, incorporating a sustainable impact assessment section. Regular articles and good news stories are shared across the Council's social media platforms, promoting initiatives such as the Lanarkshire Climate Hub, Sustainable Tourism, the Glasgow Region Retrofit Summit, Climate Week activities and the Lanarkshire Climate Festival. We've also reported on an increase in our climate change Learn Online modules, which 18% increase compared to the previous year. And South Lanarkshire Council continues to actively participate in the Climate Ready Clyde Partnership, which is an active, has an adaptation strategy and action plan for the Glasgow City region. All of the standard implications are noted in sections 5 to 9, including the input is required from all resources to complete the report. So if I can return to the recommendation, and that is that the Council's annual Public Bodies Climate Change Duties Report for 24-25 is approved. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Have we got any questions or comments? Councillor John Anderson, please.
Thanks, Chair. It's on page 23.
Hi, Councillor Anderson, we didn't catch all of that, but could you say that again, please?
Actually seen it, if it is going to be published in 2025. And just while I'm on the transport, can somebody tell me how many miles in a year that we're doing now with electric vehicles?
John, could you say the first part of that again? We missed the very start of what you were saying.
Page 23, can you hear me all right?
Yes, I can now.
Right. Page 23, the local transport strategy. It's saying it's going to be developed and due for publication in 2025. Now, there's not much left of 2025. So is this going to be published without this committee having an oversight of it?
Okay. Stuart Laird, please.
Thank you, Chair. By way of an update, thanks, Chair. By way of an update, we're currently at consultation stage for the finalised draft version of the local transport strategy, and we will be reviewing those comments back. So it's unlikely that we'll publish the finalised document this side of Christmas. It would be our intention to bring the finalised report to my Community and Enterprise Committee early in the new calendar year.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does, but it's just wondering why it wasn't coming to this committee as well. Just on the thing about the mileage that we're currently doing with electric vehicles. I'm wondering if somebody could tell me just how many miles electric vehicles cover in a year.
David Booth, please.
Thanks very much, Chair. Thanks very much, Councillor Anderson. In terms of the strategy, what we would do is we intend to take that to, as we often do, take that to Community Enterprise and also to this committee for noting, so that the committee has oversight over the strategy. So that would come to both committees, as you've mentioned. In terms of the number of electric miles that's getting done over the year, I'd need to go back and get that information. I'm sure we would be able to get that information, so I'm happy to do that and then circulate that around about the committee members. Thank you.
Okay, right, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Don't see anybody else, so can we agree to that, to the recommendation in the report? All agreed? Yes, thank you. Okay, so we now move to item number 5, the Strategic Climate Change Risk and Opportunities Assessment. That is on pages 45 to 58. Can I invite Gemma Dawes to speak to this report, please?
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to provide an update on the progress being made towards completing a strategic climate change risk and opportunities assessment, outline the strategic importance and significance of identifying organisational risks and opportunities posed by climate change, and to outline the proposed approach to the preparation of a report on the impact of climate-induced severe weather as per the Climate Emergency Declaration motion on the 1st of October 2025. The report begins by outlining the legislative and best practice requirements for the completion of a strategic climate change risk and opportunities assessment at Section 3. Completing a strategic climate change risk and opportunity assessment will enable the Council to identify and prioritise climate risk across its functions, support evidence-based decision-making and embed resilience within service delivery and governance. Section 4 brings attention to the reality that Scotland's climate is already changing. These observed climate trends are projected to continue and intensify over the coming decades, and we can expect future changes in climate to be far greater than anything we have seen in the past. Sections 5.2 to 5.5 of the report outline how Scotland's climate is projected to change. An example of this is that in winter, rainfall is expected to increase and projected to lead to an increase in the likelihood of flooding of infrastructure, businesses and homes. Conversely, summer rainfall is expected to decrease, Analysis also shows that despite overall summer drying, with wet days projected to become less frequent, when it does rain, the rainfall will likely to be from intense downpour events. Periods of water scarcity are projected to become more prevalent, leading to possible implications for agriculture and industry, for example. Projected climate trends for Scotland have clear implications for the Council, which are already being experienced, as evidenced in Section 6. Section 8 outlines the process that has been undertaken to complete the Strategic Climate Change Risk and Opportunity Assessment and the progress made to date. Progress throughout the process will continue to be reported to the Climate Change and Sustainability Committee at key stages to ensure continued oversight. It is proposed that the completed Risk and Opportunity Assessment will outline and identify the impacts of climate change-induced severe weather on the Council's services and budgets, as stipulated in the Climate Emergency Declaration motion passed by the Climate Change and Sustainability Committee on the 1st of October 2025. Sections 10 through to 14 outline all the standard implications to the Council. I refer you back to Section 2 of the paper and ask the committee to approve the following recommendations: that the importance of identifying organisational climate change risk and opportunities be noted, that the Council's progress towards identifying organisational climate change risks and opportunities in the form of a strategic climate change risk and opportunity assessment be noted, and that the proposed approach to preparation of a report on the impact of climate-induced severe weather be approved. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments? Councillor Ross Clark.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you very much to Gemma for the report. I feel like it's quite a useful report in the sense of highlighting the real impacts of climate change and severe weather events, following on from the motion from Councillor Robin, myself, and really, highlighting those actual impacts which people in South Lanarkshire and also the impact upon the Council of climate change and these severe weather events. Because often, within the political discourse around climate change, maybe not everyone realises or is able to understand or see the actual impacts. I feel like it's really useful in setting it out in this way. I suppose it is quite, so there are opportunities within that, but it is quite stark to see that impact. Obviously looking at the likes of Storm Ewan and the costs associated with responding to and dealing with these severe weather events and how that's gone up. I suppose that would be quite a worry for the resource, especially if these events are becoming more frequent, then you'd expecting that sort of cost more often. I suppose one of the questions I would have, I know the cost for the arboricultural work. How long does it take for us to work through this sort of thing? With fallen trees after an event, for example, with Storm Ewan, how long does it take us to get through all of that work? Because it is quite an impact. Elected members and the council officers know it from all our inboxes of the reports of fallen trees. I imagine it takes quite a while to deal with that, especially with kind of the small team that there is. And I would like to take the time to thank all the council officers and all the council staff involved in responding to these severe weather events. They certainly did a great job under immense pressure during the likes of Storm Ewan. Kevin Carr, please.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks for your feedback. Yep, thanks for your feedback, Councillor Clark. I'll certainly pass that back to the team. Storm Ewan in itself was actually a pretty unusual storm. The feedback from the team was it brought down a lot of larger trees than normal, and it destabilised a lot of trees. And then with the compounding factor that we had 2 yellow storms within 6 weeks after it. So we weren't just dealing with Storm Ewan. Very quickly, trees that were destabilised during the storm but hadn't come down, then come down in the subsequent storms, despite them being yellow, and probably more normal storms that we would deal with as part of the year. So that really complicated the effort. We were still getting calls for emergencies, literally 2 months after Storm Ewan because of the destabilisation factor. So the storm itself, we were still dealing with the consequences of it right up to the summer because of that. The way the service works out, we will go and make safe. We'll deal with life and limb first. And quite often that means we're moving trees to the side of the roads or to the side of paths just to make sure that there's access. And it means we need to go back at a future point and probably to deal with it. So there was a number of different factors that made that storm particularly unusual. And normally we wouldn't take, you know, a number of months to recover, but this year it did. We were well into the summer before we were confident we dealt with all the trees that we had to deal with. And again, what this report highlights is, you know, we're already thinking about future years and adaptation as well. We've commissioned, are in the process of commissioning woodland management plans for the area, and one of the things that we've asked as part of that plan is obviously taking into account, you know, if the climate's going to stay like this and these types of storms are going to be more frequent, what types of trees and what type of planting should we really undertake so that we're more resilient. So things that we're starting to think about, and over the coming years, you know, I think we'll be in a better position for plans and adaptation around that.
Okay, could I call now Councillor Ralph Barker, please?
Thanks, Chair. Thanks for that report, Gemma. Most of the report really is talking about the general problems of climate change, and then what we have to do within the council. And there is a limit. I think I'll just come back to previous questions that. From the February storm, we've been very good on emergency work and getting things done quickly, but then we don't seem to be able to get round the tidy up. Well, it's more than tidy up. So we still have safety critical road signs lying tangled where they fell in February. We still have a lot of trees looking as though they won't last the next storm, and yet most of these trees, they're not council trees, and I don't know what we can do about that. I just wondered if any update on getting back, certainly from the February storm, we just don't seem to have the resources. We have the immediate resources for emergencies, which is good, but then we're not preparing for the next storm. Thanks.
Kevin Carr, please.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Councillor Barker. If you have any specific examples of street signs or anything like that you think that we've not dealt with, I'd appreciate if you'd send them on so that we can deal with it. So the aftermath of that storm, it wasn't just the Arbour team that are dealing with it, it's the local grounds teams as well. So lots of the trees that come down, there's a few different things we can do with them. Not all of them will be removed, depends on where they land. Quite often as part of good arboricultural practices, we leave trees for biodiversity. So depending on where they were, they will have been left, but most will have been removed or chipped or made smaller and should have been removed from site. Again, if you've got any specific examples that you think we've missed, please share it. But in terms of that bigger clean-up operation, it's not just the Arbour team, it's the broader grounds workforce. We've already made changes this year in terms of the learning from that storm, so we'll have 24 grounds officers or grounds operatives, 24 additional grounds operatives trained up for basic chainsaw training for this winter. So we'll be in a better position for next year if the similar circumstances arise. And we've brought in additional equipment as well to help us deal with things a bit quicker. So we're in a better place. We've not completed all of the lessons learned, but as we're standing just now, we're in a better position than we were last year. And I think by the start of next year, we'll have a new protocol for reporting for severe weather, easy for me to say, severe weather warnings and how we deal with it from a arboricultural perspective.
Yes, thank you for that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Kirsten-Robb, please.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for the report, Gemma, and the answers, Kevin, as well. Really interesting to see. I guess that's when you come down to looking at climate risks and opportunities. When we get into the detail, it's already a top risk of the council, but when we get into that detailed planning about how we're adapting and mitigating, then the examples that Kevin was talking about are to the fore as well, and other departments will also be looking at that. So thinking about the question, seeing that climate impact will cost Glasgow City Region £400 million a year by 2050. And that's, I guess, spending money to adapt now then could make a real difference and save money and improve lives as well. So looking at where we get the resources or start to do things differently, I think we need to think about this as a long-term spend to save approach as well. So often you hear, oh, there's no resources, but there's certainly ways we can do things differently, and we should be able to find resources. We found £1.5 million for a fossil fuel burner last week. So it's about doing things differently. And so the question is, when we look at the climate risk and opportunity in detail, will we be able to put through this report, or is this another report, how we will mitigate and adapt to climate change and start to put on some costs to some of the actions that can be done to take us forward and address the climate risks.
David Booth, please.
Thanks very much, Chair, and thanks very much, Councillor Rob. We're doing a lot of work in terms of around about some big, broad, strategic initiatives at the moment around about, like for example, the 10-year estate strategy, the fleet modernisation of our fleet. As we go into those processes, the information such as that is contained in this report is becoming really helpful as part of the reason around about doing these strategies is to take us along that journey towards net zero. So through that, we will understand in much more detail the amount of money that we'll require to spend to adapt our properties and our fleet to take forward this agenda. So it wouldn't necessarily be through a separate report through something like this, but it would be a consideration that's built into the broader strategies that we'll take forward.
Okay. Councillor Rob, please.
Yeah, that's fine. Thanks very much, David. It was just a wee point of, just for accuracy, apologies I didn't spot this before. The motion was passed at full council in 9.4, so if that could just, a small item could be corrected in the minutes rather than at this committee. Okay, thank you.
I don't see anybody else looking to speak, so can we agree to the recommendations in that report? Agreed. Okay, thank you. Moving on now to item number 6, the Carbon Management Year-End Report 2024-2025. That is pages 59 to 68. Can I ask Catherine McCafferty to speak to the report, please?
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to update the committee on the details of carbon emissions from South Lanarkshire Council's operations in 24-25. Section 3 of the report provides the policy background and notes that in November 2024, the Scottish Parliament passed the Climate Change Emissions Reductions Targets Scotland Act 2024. The Act was introduced following advice from the Climate Change Committee that the previous 2030 interim target was unachievable. It replaces Scotland's previous system of annual and interim greenhouse gas emissions targets with a framework of 5-year carbon budgets to set limits on emissions over these periods. The new carbon budget system offers a more stable and reliable method of tracking progress towards emissions reduction goals. It should be noted this is not a direct target for local authorities, but we will be expected to contribute to emissions reductions. Section 4 of the report outlines the Council's carbon emissions for 24-25, with Table 3 providing an overview of all reported emissions. With 4 new categories added, carbon emissions show a 70% reduction from the baseline year of 2005 and a reduction of 5% compared to the previous year. Section 4.5 and Table 4 detail Scope 1 emissions. Scope 1 emissions have reduced by 28% since the baseline year of 2005, and compared to 23-24, Scope 1 emissions have reduced by 2.34%. This decrease in emissions is mainly due to a reduction in gas consumption from the Council's estate. Gas consumption for 24-25 decreased by 3.6% compared with the previous year, resulting in an emissions reduction of 3.5%. However, gas use is the largest contributor to the Council's carbon emissions, accounting for 46% of the emissions total, as shown in Figure 1 in the report. Section 4.6 and Table 5 detail the Scope 2 emissions for 24-25. This category of emissions has reduced by 77% since the baseline year of 2005, and compared to 23-24, Scope 2 emissions have reduced by 2.61%. As noted in Section 4.65, Scope 2 emissions reductions will mainly come through the decarbonisation of the electricity grid. However, work continues to reduce the Council's overall electricity consumption. Section 4.7 and Table 6 detail Scope 3 emissions for 24-25. Scope 3 emissions account for 10% of the Council's operational emissions at present. However, this figure is expected to rise as additional emissions categories will be added in line with forthcoming Scottish Government guidance. Our Scope 3 emissions have reduced by 92% since the baseline year of 2005, and compared to 23-24, Scope 3 emissions have reduced by 23%. The carbon emissions associated with household waste have reduced significantly by 39% in 2024 compared to 2023. It should be noted that waste is reported by calendar year rather than financial year. The emissions factors for recycling and energy from waste has been corrected by the Department for Energy Security and Net Zero. So the transport emissions associated with these disposal approaches reduced by almost 70%, leading to this significant reduction. And as noted in 4.4 and in previous reports, carbon emissions are calculated using the greenhouse gas conversion factors for company reporting. These factors are subject to change due to updated data and shifts in energy sources, and as a result, the factors can vary from year to year, which can impact the Council's carbon emissions data. Section 5 of the report details the next stages, which include the development of a net zero route map for Scope 1 emissions. The route map will be developed alongside other strategies, including the 10 years of straight strategy and the new fleet strategy. While the new net zero route map for Scope 1 emissions is under development, the Council will continue to aim to reduce emissions as much as possible without a set target. All the standard implications are noted in Section 6 to 10, including the input is required from all resources and the significant financial implications to achieving national net zero targets. So if I can return you to the recommendations of the report, and that is to note the Council's operational carbon emissions for the year 24-25, and to note the 25-26 target for operational carbon emissions as outlined in Section 5.5 of the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can I ask for any question or comments? Councillor Ross Clark, please.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you very much for that report. Looking specifically at page 65, 5.5, something which was just mentioned when it says the net zero route for Scope 1 emissions under development, and the Council aim to reduce emissions as much as possible without a set target. Can you maybe give some of the reason behind not having a set target at this stage?
Catherine McCafferty again, please.
So we are working with the resources on projects which will reduce carbon emissions, but while we're setting out that plan, we can't actually have a specific target. We could say 5 or 6%, but it would really just be a bit of guesstimating. So we want to continue to reduce as we have this year, and hopefully going on in following years we'll have specific targets for like 5 to 6 years going forward.
Okay. Now, Councillor Julia Mars, please.
Thank you, Chair. Going to the section on page 62, noting that the natural gas buildings is 46.16%. I agree, it's still very high, higher than I think we would want it to be. I'm wondering what plans there are for district heating of the council, looking especially at the imminent replacement of the Amada Street heating system.
Okay. Alison Brown, please.
Thank you, Councillor Mars. Yes, working with colleagues in Housing and Technical Resources, we're looking at a number of district heating initiatives across the council, and that includes working with Scottish Water Horizons for a potential fairly extensive district heating network serving the Bothwell Road, Beckford Street, Almada Street area, and that's working not obviously with the council, but also with other private sector properties as well, such as the Hamilton College, the racecourse, and some of the industrial units along Bothwell Road. So that's an exciting opportunity. Very complex project, but it is one that we have got a bit of traction with Scottish Government, and also, as I say, a potential partner with Scottish Water Horizons.
Okay. Councillor Barker.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks for those reports. I suppose it is a pertinent question of how we heat, particularly this building, which does need heating and then it does need cooling at times. Just for interest, I mean, it seems as though the heating is going to have to be replaced by a fossil fuel system, just to the urgency. I'm not sure. You could perhaps clarify that. But do we have a real option for the future for a non-fossil fuel, if you like, option, such as geothermal? I just wondered how far we had got on that, but if the urgency of the present system, it will have to be a fossil fuel replacement. Thanks. I just haven't been keeping myself up to date with what's happening. Thank you.
Okay, David Booth, please.
Thanks very much, Chair. Thanks very much, Councillor Barker. Yeah, this was discussed at the last week's executive committee in terms of part of the capital programme around about the heating of this particular facility. So I think that in terms of those deliberations that were taken over the longer term around about different approaches to fuel for this facility, those were not at a stage at the moment that we would be able to replace the heating with something of that nature, but there is a requirement at the moment to change and replace this heating, just given the age and condition of the existing heating system and the risk to the building of it failing. So proposals are in track at the moment to replace it with a gas-fired heating system. But whilst we're looking at that, there are these longer-term discussions where we're looking at a range of options, including the district heating option that Alison touched on there.
Thanks, I appreciate that.
Okay, I don't see any more questions. So can we agree to note the report, please? Okay. On to item number 7, which is South Lanarkshire Council Climate Week 2025. That's on pages 69 to 80. Can I invite Adam Wallace to speak to the report, please?
Thank you, Chair. So the purpose of this report is to provide committee with an update on the work undertaken by South Lanarkshire Council in support of Scotland's Climate Week 2025. Recognising that public engagement is central to tackling the impacts of climate change, the Net Zero Nation Public Engagement Strategy sets out the Scottish Government's overarching framework for engaging the people of Scotland in the transition to net zero by 2045. The strategic objectives of the framework are to understand, so to communicate climate change and how it relates to people's lives, to participate, enable participation in shaping just, fair and inclusive policies that promote mitigation and adaptation to climate change, and to act by encouraging taking climate action in households, communities and places. Scotland's Climate Week is an annual event that raises awareness about the global climate emergency and promotes individual and collective action. This year it took place between the 29th of September and the 5th of October 2025. Climate Week 2025 coincided with several other campaigns in September, including Second Hand September, Recycle Week, Lanarkshire Climate Festival and World Car Free Day. Recognising the alignment, the Council delivered a month-long programme of climate communications throughout September. This programme is fully detailed in Appendix 1. Some highlights of the programme are presented in Section 5 of the report, and these include a number of few articles. During Climate Week, 5 articles were published on Fernbrae allotment, Crawford and Abington Primary Schools Scoot to School Initiative, ISKON's Sustainable Energy Generation and Social Food Deliveries Project, and St John's Primary Blackwood Partnership Sensory Garden and Living Roof Projects. Climate Week also marked the launch of the second phase of the home composter pilot. The View article reopening the scheme promoted this as an opportunity for residents to adopt more sustainable organic waste practices. Throughout September, a number of other View articles were published, including the opening of the active travel route between Colburn and Lesmahago, a spotlight on local nature reserves, updates on projects funded by the Climate Emergency Fund, and promotion of the Better Points active travel app. Social media was also used. The Council social media channels on Facebook and Blue Sky were used to promote the Lanarkshire Climate Hub Climate Festival, which ran from the 8th to the 21st of September, as well as the promotion of a number of specific events, such as free bike safety checks provided by Dr Bike at Castlebank Park in Lanark. During Recycle Week, daily social media posts were published using the Zero Waste Scotland campaign theme, Don't Let It Go to Waste. And in addition, the Council actively reshared a range of relevant environmental messages from partner organisations throughout the month. Throughout September, the Council also delivered a range of events related to climate change, including the Junior Road Safety Officer Open Day at Shatlerow Country Park. The Countryside Rangers team also delivered 6 community conservation days at various local nature reserves and 2 lunchtime heroes sessions at Fernbrae Meadows. The Lanarkshire Climate Hub Conference also featured the Council's sustainability team as guest speakers. September's campaigns presented an opportunity to also enhance organisational carbon literacy by encouraging participation in relevant learning opportunities. The Council's 3-part climate emergency online training modules were promoted to staff through an intranet post at the beginning of the month, and then again at the start of Climate Week in an all-council email. An in-person training workshop for elected members was also delivered during the month. Lastly, internal communications were used to provide examples and inspiration for action. A Project Henry feature during Recycle Week highlighted how officers are putting circular economy principles into practice with their work upcycling Henry vacuum cleaners into planters, and that has been showcased at national events as well. In terms of next steps, the sustainability team will incorporate lessons learned into the Sustainability Communications Plan for 26-27. The implications of this report are noted between sections 7 and 11, and with particular focus on the climate change and sustainability and environmental implications. Engaging in climate education and promotion helps the Council to meet some of the priorities outlined in the Sustainable Development and Climate Change Strategy. These include influence change through improving the understanding of sustainable development, climate change and climate emergency across South Lanarkshire, and empowering communities to take climate action and be more environmentally sustainable. The activities outlined in this report also deliver across multiple interconnected UN Sustainable Development Goals by driving awareness, education and practical action that empower individuals, businesses and communities to be active participants in sustainability and climate resilience. So just to refer back to the recommendations of the report, the committee is asked to approve the recommendation that the content of the report in respect to climate action initiatives during Scotland's Climate Week 2025 is noted. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have questions or comments? Councillor Ross Clark, please.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you very much for the report. Looking at the social media section specifically, it is good to see what the Council is doing in this, how we're increasing that communications activity. Also, we had that communication strategy that came to committee a few months ago, and effectively we are being a lot more strategic with those communications, which is good to see. But I suppose my question would be around what has the engagement been like on social media and View articles and so on, because it is, as I said, it is good to see that we are doing more, but as we know, a lot of time if the Council might do a lot on social media about a certain thing, but might not get any engagement, or it might get 1 or 2 likes, or it might just solely get negative comments. So what has the engagement been around that social media work? Second part of my question, I'm happy to come back in if needed, is around the events. Again, good to see what's happening in that space, but what is the follow-up from these events? What are we doing to make sure that these were successful? How are we gathering feedback from participants, and how are we ensuring that these have been useful exercises? And I suppose there's also a general point in that, and it is touched upon here, the opportunity to work with existing community groups, because as we know, there will be some people out there that will see the council organising something and be less likely to engage than they would with an established, respected community group. So I know the council are aware of that, but there is that opportunity there going forward.
Okay, Gemma Dodds, please.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. We have managed to pull some analytics from social media posts, internet posts, as well as the View articles. And we've realised, unsurprisingly, that the View article that got the most traction was on the launch of the composters, but that was then followed by the article on Abington and Crawford Primary Schools. So we're seeing there that obviously launching specific projects is really of interest to the public, as well as, you know, those good news stories about initiatives with schools and kind of kids. So that's maybe something to take into consideration for our next comms plan. Then the launch of our month of climate action on our intranet was the most viewed article there as well, which promoted people to take part in training. And we got, during the month of September, we got 16 people completing the climate emergency training, but throughout Q2, we've managed to increase the participation in that training by 67, which is really great. And with respect to events, I guess we're always taking on board what we could do to kind of improve events every time that we kind of carry those out, just by feedback, and especially around the participation in the Hub conference. We know going forward that maybe we'll do something ourselves that's a little bit more engaging for community groups. And also your point on kind of engaging in events, that's why we try to promote the Hub Climate Festival, as we know that they are events carried out by local community groups that are trusted by people in the community. So we try and focus on promoting what's happening with those kind of trusted partners.
Okay, thank you. No other questions. So can we agree to note the report, please?
Agreed.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to item number 8, Education Resources Sustainability Report on pages 81 to 88. Can I invite Gillian Riley to speak to the report, please?
Thank you, Chair. This report provides an update on education resources sustainability work since February 2024. It outlines how previous investment in staff development, youth engagement and whole school planning has led to measurable progress, and highlights the priorities and planned activity for 2025 to 26. The committee is asked to note the wide range of activities taking place across education resources, and note the continued steps planned to extend the work during 25 to 26. These recommendations reaffirm that learning for sustainability remains central to our work and reflect the Council's ongoing commitment to youth-led initiatives, staff development and partnership working across services and communities. Focusing on section 3 of the report, Learning for Sustainability Progress, Education Resources continues to embed learning for sustainability across all schools through coordinated planning, professional learning and youth engagement. A Primary Science and Sustainability Development Officer in post since August 2021 provides dedicated leadership to strengthen collaboration across services, align sustainability priorities and support staff to integrate learning for sustainability across the curriculum. The Sustainability Working Group, made up of trained staff from across education resources, meets regularly to share best practice and coordinate efforts. The group also helped establish the Youth Forum on Climate Change and Sustainability, ensuring pupils' voice influenced local action. Following consultation with stakeholders, including children and young people, a 5th key priority was added to the 2022 to 2023 resource plan. This is to empower learners to shape and influence action on climate change and sustainability. This priority continues to shape education's resources direction into 2025 to 26 and beyond. Focusing on section 3.6, recent sustainability activity, since the last committee report in February 24, activity has moved from development to delivery, with tangible progress across schools and communities. the expansion of school-based eco-initiatives. More schools now have eco-committees, biodiversity gardens and climate pledges embedded in school improvement plans, turning sustainability into part of daily school life. Professional learning for educators. Teachers' demand for learning for sustainability training has grown, with programmes focusing on global citizenship, outdoor learning and sustainable development education. The Education Sway newsletter continues to share good practice across our schools. Learner-led projects. Pupil groups are leading waste audits, uniform reuse and recycling schemes, developing leadership skills and influencing change beyond our school grounds. Curriculum and community links. Lessons increasingly connect with real-world outcomes such as waste reduction and biodiversity improvements, deepening understanding and community impact. Education resources has clearly moved from planning to embedded action, expanding good practice and empowering both staff and pupils to lead local climate initiatives. Moving on to section 4 of the report, empowering young people. The Youth Forum on Climate Change and Sustainability, which was launched in August 2021, has grown into a central platform for youth voice across our secondary schools. It enables young people to discuss key issues, influence decision-making and take forward practical action. Early achievements included the Climate Emergency Newsroom at COP26 in partnership with the University of Glasgow, which published over 130 articles, gained 1 million online views and received recognition in the Scottish Parliament. The Forum has also created and delivered the Conference of Schools events, now established as a key feature of South Lancashire's climate education programme. These events, engaging hundreds of primary and secondary pupils, use interactive workshops to inspire climate pledges and school-based projects. By 2023 to 24, the Forum had expanded its influence through closer links with the Community Planning Partnership and locally elected members. Initiatives such as Teach the Teacher training, a recycling pilot and Save Our World Jump App campaign have showcased pupil leadership and innovation. Focusing on section 4.7 of the report, the Youth Forum during 2024 to 25. This year marked a shift from individual events to a sustained programme of youth leadership and system-wide collaboration. Teach the Teacher training, which was delivered by SOS UK, reached most secondary schools and supported pupils to lead sustainability discussions with staff during an in-service day. The Forum presented at the Community Planning Partnership, proposing 3 key initiatives: a Walk to School campaign, school uniform recycling and community clean-up events. The Learning for Sustainability Conference for Teachers brought together 180 practitioners, with pupils contributing as speakers and workshop leaders. Visits to Whiteley Wind Farm and delivery of Conference of Schools 3 enabled Forum members to share renewable energy learning with their primary school pupils. A tree planting project with Trees for Cities saw over 200 trees planted in Rutherglen, reinforcing community engagement. The Youth Forum has now evolved into a recognised leadership body, linking young people's ideas directly to local policy, professional learning and community action. Moving on to section 5 of the report, other work with within education resources. Education resources continues to build a strong culture of sustainability through events, training and partnerships. The Conference of Schools series has become a cornerstone of climate education, encouraging schools to turn pledges into local projects. Planning for Conference of Schools 4, which is due in March 2026, is already underway. The Learning for Sustainability in STEM newsletter continues to promote professional learning, share classroom resources, and highlight best practice, helping schools connect with one another and with our external partners. Focusing on section 5.3 of the report, sustainability projects and achievements. 2024 to 25 saw major growth in engagement. Over 1,600 pupils joined interactive live sustainability lessons, now being extended due to strong demand. The Climate Ready Classrooms programme grew from 16 to 107 participating classes, a huge increase supported by trained teachers in partnership with Keep Scotland Beautiful. 64 schools, which is 35% of our schools, are now active in the Eco Schools programme, exceeding the national average of 29%. Participation in LEAF, Pocket Garden Design Competition and Young Reporters for the Environment competition continues to bring national recognition. Early year settings are embedding sustainability into play and learning, supported by 2 peripatetic teachers and an annual showcase event. Together, these projects show that learning for sustainability is now a consistent, creative and collaborative feature of school life across South Lanarkshire. Moving on to Section 6, Continued Commitment. Education Resources remains aligned with Scotland's Target 2030 Learning for Sustainability Action Plan, ensuring that every learner has access to sustainability education and every school adopts a whole-setting approach. Officers continue to support schools through visits, training and new materials designed to strengthen curriculum integration. Focusing in Section 6.6 of the report, plans for 25 to 26. Future activity focuses on expanding youth leadership and strengthening professional learning. In August 2025, new teach-to-teacher training was delivered to the Youth Forum members in partnership with SOS UK, empowering young people to lead meaningful sustainability conversations within their school and communities. In October 2025, youth representation is a key speaker at Education's Google Digital event, and active participation in Young Reporters for the Environment workshops provided platforms for our young voices to share their perspectives on digital innovation and environmental responsibility. In October 2025, presentations by secondary school students at the Community Planning Partnership highlighted their priorities for 2025 to 26 and practical actions in sustainability and climate education at the local level. In October 2025, an early years training session was delivered by young people during their Learning for Sustainability Showcase event, showcasing youth leadership and peer-to-peer learning in professional development settings. In November 2025, participation from our Youth Forum members in the Trees for Cities Youth Summit, where pupils engaged in discussions and activities focused on environmental action and climate resilience. In November 2025, South Lanarkshire Council's provisionally registered teachers will participate in a hands-on outdoor learning session at Shatler Country Park, designed to strengthen links between classroom practice and outdoor environment. A Learning for Sustainability Showcase event scheduled for February 26 will be led by pupils celebrating innovative, pupil-driven achievements across early years primary and secondary sectors. Delivery of our Conference of Schools 4 event scheduled for March 26, continuing the annual event Pupil-Led Climate Education Series, building on previous successes and expanding youth engagement in local climate action. These plans reflect a forward-looking and collaborative approach, ensuring that learning for sustainability remains at the centre of education across the authority. In conclusion, Education Resources continues to demonstrate clear progress through in embedding learning for sustainability across South Lanarkshire. The combination of staff training, curriculum development and strong youth leadership is delivering real outcomes for learners and communities. The ongoing success of the Youth Forum, the Conference of Schools programme and local sustainability projects highlights a collective commitment to climate action. As the authority moves in 2025 to 26, the focus will remain on collaboration, empowerment and capacity building, ensuring sustainability is part of everyday learning, teaching and community life across South Lanarkshire Council.
Thank you very much for that. Do we have any questions or comments? Councillor Ross Clark, please.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you very much for that report. I'm going to say a similar thing again, in the sense that there's certainly a lot of good work ongoing, and I've spoken about this previously in the Council, about the importance of ensuring pupil-led work in the space of climate change. Is really good to see encouraging that pupil leadership, because a lot of the time what we see with consultation with young people, something not specific to the Council, is that it's often just a pat in the back, you are the future, you are an inspiration to us all, but they're not actually involved in real decision making. So it's good to see the work that is ongoing, especially with the youth forum. And I know that one of their asks was related to the learning for sustainability and encouraging more climate education. I've also engaged with other campaign groups on that. So that is something which is really good to see. My question would be, do we intend to ask the youth forum to come back and present to this committee? If that is something they would like to do, because it just relates back to that point of ensuring there is a mechanism for the youth forum to hold the council and specifically us as elected members to account over the decisions that we are making.
David Booth, please.
Thank you very much, Councillor Clark. So I'm happy we'll liaise with our colleagues in Education Resources. The Youth Forum has been here before and again contributed well to the discussions of the committee, so I'm sure we can get something accommodated in the future. My education colleagues are nodding, so I think we'll make that happen. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next, Councillor Katie Loudon, please.
Thanks very much, Chair. Thank you, Gillian, for that really detailed report. There's obviously a lot of good work going on in our educational establishments, and lots of opportunities for our children and young people, including opportunities to develop other skills like leadership as well, which is great to hear about. I'd like to ask about Beat the Street. That was recently back in Rutherglen and Cambuslang. It was great to see it back in my ward. I know there was a lot of enthusiasm for it. I got to meet Beatty the Hedgehog in Cambuslang Park. It was all very exciting. I just wanted to ask a bit about analysis of some of the data that we're going to be able to get from that 6-week project, because anything I've seen before has been quite high level. I know it's run by a third party on behalf of the council, Beat the Street, understandably, because they provide all of the boxes that are on the street furniture and so on. I just wondered if we can access data like timings of when the boxes were beeped. So if it was on the way to school, for example. The point of this is obviously to encourage active travel. I was at a parent council in my ward last night, so they'd invited me along to speak about travel, parking, traffic issues which they were having. And it would be good if we were able to see and use as a council some of that information about whether there was a change during that 6-week period when we're talking about those specific times of day, so that we could then feed that into our other resources and planning, like in community and enterprise, the Road Safety Forum and so on.
David Booth, please.
Thanks very much, Chair. Thanks very much, Councillor Loudon. As I speak just now, I'm not really sure of the data that we can draw from the system, but I would be happy to take that up with officers from Environment Services that leading on some of that work, along with colleagues across the council, and we'll see what we can get out of the system and come back with some information on that, if that's okay.
That's great. Thanks very much. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, Councillor Kirsten Robb, please.
Thank you. That's such an inspiration, Gillian. Thanks very much for all the work you personally are doing, but also to thank education as a whole and all the schools and the young people involved. It's always so inspiring to see what's actually been delivered on the ground, as well as learning about it, actually making the changes as well. Looking forward to going to COS again this year, so that'll be good. I wanted to ask, maybe it's more for David. We agreed through the nature emergency motion that education would promote and highlight the work on the Forestry and Outdoor Learning Award. The SQA qualified, just to ask an update of when and how that will happen, and how we're going to keep continuing this work into the future as well. Thank you.
David Tinshelwood, please.
Thank you, Councillor Robb. Yeah, we have been in contact with our colleagues who work in our quality improvement team within education, as we have a link with sustainability into that. We're working on that at the moment. Obviously, I'll be able to get you an update before the next committee about where we are and I can certainly send that on to you as an action from today's meeting, if that's okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I don't see anyone else wanting to speak. So can we agree to note that report, please?
Noted.
Thank you. Item number 9 is the litter strategy update. That's pages 89 to 106. Can I invite Emma Berry, to speak to the report?
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of the report is to provide an update on the work undertaken to date on the litter strategy 2022 to 27 and the associated action plan. The strategy outlines a clear vision for how the Council will develop plans and initiatives to prevent and address litter, dogfouling and fly tipping. Over the past year, there has been positive engagement with diverse community groups and individuals. Through the Community Clean-up web forum, groups and residents have been supported in conducting litter picks and clean-ups. Ground Services have also actively engaged with schools and the Climate Change and Sustainability Youth Forum. The litter bin map and inventory undertaken for the litter strategy has been invaluable for understanding the current locations and capacities of existing bin infrastructure. This has enabled informed decisions about new bin requests. The litter bin replacement programme is continuing to be rolled out, ensuring location and capacity suits the needs of each area. South Lanarkshire Council has successfully obtained Chewing Gum Task Force grant funding for the last 4 years. This has allowed effective cleansing of gum staining in town centres across all localities. This year we were awarded just over 27,000. We're going to move on to section 4 now regarding the Litter Strategy Steering Group. That is there to provide leadership, governance and oversight that will drive collaborative action across the Council to achieve the vision and objectives outlined within the litter strategy. The group has been invaluable in discussing current practices and encouraging innovative corporate collaboration across all council resources, along with working on the action plan. The action plan is included in Appendix 1 and there's updates under each action. 4.5 provides some highlights from the year, however. That is working with various resources to scope and procure solar CCTV cameras to tackle fly tipping. It's Your Place campaign branding used successfully on a number of campaigns tackling waste, litter and fly tipping, identifying location and progressing with the installation of physical fly tipping preventative measures, and progressing to pilot initiatives focusing on town centres and housing. Another part of this strategy looks at supporting data which helps us measure progress and success. Fly tipping figures are something we monitor closely for change and new hotspots. 2024 resulted in the first increase in 4 years regarding fly tipping, with 3,113 reporting instances. Increases have been seen in 3 areas in particular: Rutherglen, East Kilbride and Stonehouse, and a number of measures to tackle this increase and also fly tipping in general are being developed and are set out in section 8 of the report. Capturing data on a national level is difficult. However, we do know anecdotally that other local authorities are experiencing this increase in fly tipping during this time. The baseline data set that we have also includes housing requests for abandoned waste and also waste in the wrong place within housing areas. This highlights the lack of personal responsibility even where residents live. During 2024-25, there was 3,043 requests for removal of waste, which is a 37% decrease from 23-24. This decrease can be directly linked to Housing Services' proactive approach with tenants and investigating all deposits of waste or waste in the wrong place within housing managed locations. Section 7 details information on the review of the fly tipping reporting process that was undertaken during the year to consider the customer experience and internal management processes. This highlighted inquiries were being gathered in isolation and also in different ways, and the key information on evidence, land ownership and the nature of the materials deposited was not always being considered and recorded adequately. The review introduced a streamlined process for customer inquiries, which included new questions and options. The change allowed the reporter to provide much more valuable and usable detail about the waste and to expedite the allocation of the inquiry for either collection or for investigation. This brought about a quicker resolutions and inquiry. To date, environmental services have received around 30% less inquiries, with these now going to ground services for removal, since there's no evidence within these fly tippings. Moving on to section 8 now. In the council's budget for 2025-26, 350,000 was allocated to tackle fly tipping. This funding has been utilised in 3 areas to focus on prevention and enforcement. Much of the funding, approximately 250,000, will be used to recruit 2 additional enforcement officers for a 2-year period. 50,000 of the investment will be used to introduce physical preventative measures to restrict fly tipping in hotspot locations. This will include gates, fences, boulders, bollards and natural bunds, depending on the location. The final 50,000 of the investment will be used to procure modern redeployable solar CCTV cameras to tackle fly tipping in a range of recurring locations. The final section I want to mention is 9, as effective communications are an important plan of the litter strategy to encourage public understanding and to support and encourage behaviour change. I would now like to refer back to 2.1 and ask the committee to approve the following recommendations: that the progress and the updates in the litter strategy action plan be noted, and that the pilot projects update be noted. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Questions and comments? Councillor Andrea Cowan, please.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Emma, for that report. There's lots there, lots of good stuff, and I know it's an ever-changing picture because of the, the changes to bulk uplifts and appointments at the recycling centres and everything. So I know that this is a changing picture that everyone's getting to grips with. There's a very small reference in the report at 6.2 under the Cambuslang heading, a very small reference just to the recent commercial waste review that was carried out by the council following a successful motion that I brought to full council. This is something that continues to irk me. In the past couple of weeks, I've had 2 constituents get in touch regarding the overflowing bins in the street around commercial units, around shops, and the overwhelming replies and responses that I get from Waste Management are that these small businesses are using the residents' bins and the bins in the street. But, obviously being very clever about it so that, it can't really be traced back, but very obviously commercial waste going into these bins. So my point really is about enforcement. Council decided not to implement a new commercial waste strategy because of the difficulties around enforcement. And I really think that, as Councillor Robb said earlier, it's maybe time that we need to spend to save. And I see that we're still trying to recruit, hopefully we've managed to recruit a second environment enforcement officer. I think we need to employ many more. I think we really need to take the bull by the horns and start enforcing these breaches by shops and so on. And I also look forward to the lunchtime pilot scheme that's going to be going on, because again, a lot of these takeaway shops and everything, they take absolutely no responsibility for the litter that they produce via our school children, at lunchtimes and so on. And again, I don't know if there's anything we can do to encourage them to take some responsibility, but certainly where there is an enforcement option, I feel that we really should be, taking the bull by the horns and getting on with that. So I suppose my question after all of that is, did we successfully manage to get another enforcement officer? And if so, are there plans to recruit more? Thanks.
David Booth, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you very much, Councillor Cowan. So we've recruited one officer there in post, but another recruitment is at the end of the recruitment process. So I'm expecting imminently for that second officer to be in post. You'll recall there was additional resources allocated towards fly tipping at last week's executive committee. We're working through that at the moment in terms of the how we will spend some of that money in that area, and that might include where it's possible to do so, some additional officers as well. What we do have is we have the contingent officers that we have at the moment in terms of enforcement, and they cover a lot of ground as it is, including fly tipping and a range of other activities. If there was a desire for the council to have additional enforcement officers, then that would require additional revenue budget to be made available over and above that budget that we have at our disposal just now. And really that would be a decision for the council to make moving forward as it sets its budget. But what we will do is, in terms of if there are specific instances where commercial properties are using residential bins, then that's something I'm happy to ask officers to engage with to see what we can look at that as a specific instance and see for something that can be done around about that. Thank you.
Thanks. Councillor Julia Mars, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'd specifically speak to point 8.3. I'm very pleased to see the funding for the solar-powered CCTV for areas without means power. It's particularly relevant in the rural area where there'll be many areas that are easy to fly tip but don't necessarily have street lighting in the vicinity. As the CCTV will be deployed as needed and presumably moved about locations, it won't be practical, I'm sure, to cover every single location all of the time. Can I ask whether this policy will go alongside some preventative signage, perhaps indicating that the CCTV may be in the vicinity, rather than definitely as to try as a further preventative measure?
Kevin Carr, please.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Councillor Mars, for your question. So yes, so we're just by way of an update on the cameras, we're just concluding the procurement process for that at the moment, which is really good news. And as the report sets out, they'll feed directly into Pollock Avenue, which is excellent. As you said, that's going to provide some coverage in the rural areas that we haven't had before. So we'll be targeting hotspot areas, where we see frequent fly tipping. And you're right, we'll put signage out as well. I mean, you mentioned preventative measures. As the report sets out, we're already looking at 17, probably more than that, hotspot areas where we think we can put preventative measures in, which are things like boulders, natural bunding, gates, fences as well. So as the report sets out, we're trying to take a whole suite of measures, in terms of that enforcement and preventative action, and hopefully over the next 6 months we'll see the fruits of that.
Thank you. Councillor Kirsten Robb, please.
Thank you. Thanks for the report, Emma, and lots of good questions there as well. On top of what we agreed last week at the executive, which I was really pleased to see that additional investment coming into an area that maybe we haven't had as much as we need to in previous years. What we did agree to as well, obviously, to work with our litter picking groups to see what more can be done to develop maybe new models of how these things could be more community outwardly focused. But we'll see what working with the litter groups come out with. There's a transparency statement. I'm a volunteer with the litter picking group. And also what we agreed last week, does respond directly to the Youth Forum's ask for help with the community litter picking aspect and how we can prevent litter in the long term as well. That'd be good too. And we also agreed on more comms about the practical alternatives, some of which were highlighted during Climate Week, but I think we need to keep getting that message out. There are affordable, convenient alternatives to dumping things that will also save you money and help develop skills and help charities as well. So all those things were added in last week, and I think it was a good result. Wanted to ask, are there any, looking at the last section of the report there, are there any opportunities to increase recycling of fly-tipped waste that's collected by the council, please?
Kevin Carr, please.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Councillor Robb. So the majority of it, isn't recyclable, but wherever we can. So if there's, fridges and things like that, they're collected separately, and whether they don't go to energy from waste or landfill. So wherever there's an opportunity to do it, we do so. We're now in a complicated market where we have the POPs legislation there as well, so you might actually see, depending on the fly tipping, 3 actual collections because they need to be disposed and collected separately. So we do what we can. Unfortunately, the majority we collect, there just isn't an opportunity to do so.
Just ask a wee bit more about that. Are there any stats about what we are collecting, fly tip materials, how much potentially could be recyclable, for example, wood or bridges and so on, just if we collect any stats on what we're collecting? Thanks.
We don't collect that level of detail. So, when fly tipping is reported at the moment, it tends to be, it's not one item, it tends to be multiple items. So the information that captured at the front end isn't as accurate as we would like it to be. We're in the process of changing confirm systems and the cloud system that will give us a bit more flexibility around that. So we collect ultimately tonnages, but we don't have the granular detail that tells us, every element of every item, the tonnage or account of the items. We don't have that at the moment. I'm not confident we would ever have that in the future, but I think going to the new system will give us a different level of detail than we have at the moment.
Okay, thank you. So we don't have anybody else looking to speak, so can we note that report, please?
Agreed.
Okay, thank you. So now we're on to number 10, which is the urgent business. So this is the item that I referred to at the beginning, the draft climate change plan, Scottish Government consultation. Can I invite Adam Wallace to speak to this item, please?
Thank you, Chair. So this item, excuse me, this item relates to the publication of a consultation on the draft climate change plan for Scotland. The plan outlines the policies and proposals required for Scotland to achieve its goal of ending its contribution to global greenhouse gas emissions. The consultation is going to be open for responses until the 29th of January 2026. Due to the timing of the excuse me, committee reporting cycles, officers will not be able to present a draft response to the Climate Change and Sustainability Committee for formal approval prior to the submission. However, elected members of the committee are going to be invited to review the consultation and the associated documents and provide comments for consideration in the Council's final response to the sustainability team, as was agreed previously at this committee. All feedback on the draft climate change plan consultation questions, we would ask, that this be submitted to the sustainability team by Thursday the 8th of January to allow time for incorporation into the Council's draft response. The final draft response will then be circulated round all members for comment in advance of final submission to the Scottish Government on the 29th of January. So there will be 2 opportunities to feed in. Once by reviewing the consultation documents, providing any feedback to us, we'll incorporate that into the Council's response. That final response will then be circulated for final comment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Councillor Ross Clark, please.
Two parts of this. First of all, again, looking for clarity on what the recommendations are for this urgent business, if we could outline those clearly, first of all.
David Booth, please.
So, thanks very much, Councillor Clark. So I don't think there are any recommendations as such. What we're doing at this particular point is alerting the committee that we have received a consultation document just over the last week or so, that we will be engaging with the committee, given the timescales of this. There's not another committee meeting before it would need to be submitted. So we're giving members the opportunity to comment on it. I think we're going to circulate some information about that. We will then, once we've collated that information before we submit it, we will recirculate that so that the committee members get to see the thing before it goes out. So we're not asked you, this is just around about alerting you that we've received the consultation and we intend to engage with elected members on it.
Okay, the second part to that, thank Adam for outlining the deadline for consultation, because the response, because that was something I was trying to find out there. I see the publicly available consultation says the same thing. There is an executive committee meeting on the 3rd of December. Could the consultation response go for approval to that meeting so that elected members can have that official forum to approve a response before it goes out?
David Booth, please.
Thanks very much. Thanks very much, councillors. I don't think the timescales would allow for that. The document I've just been informed is 300 pages long. So I think there's a bit of an exercise in terms of in front of us about collecting the responses to it. So in terms of that particular committee, the time frame that would allow us in order to pull that together would just be too tight.
What is the latest timescale for that? For it to come to a committee? Because I also note there's for example, a community and enterprise on the 16th of December. I just want to make sure I've explored all options of all committees before that response deadline to check if there is any which it can come to first of all.
David Booth.
Yep. Again, we'll check that. Again, I think this side of Christmas, that one's going to be tight. There are a couple of options that are available to us. We can, as I said, we're suggesting that we would be circulating this out with this committee structure. The other option is we can engage with our college and Scottish Government and ask them if they would accept a later submission that would allow us to bring it to this forum at its next regular meeting before it gets submitted. So I think we'll maybe take that away as an action to see if that might be a preferable route forward. As I say, it's quite a time scale we've given for this, and it just the amount of work that's involved, and then trying to get that led into a committee over Christmas period is just a very difficult thing to be able to do. So if you leave that with us, we'll go and look at what options are and come back to elected members.
Yeah, thank you. I would like that request to be made, and personally, I'd be fine if it came to executive or community enterprise. I think it's important that that request is made to ensure that elected members do have that official forum to scrutinise any response that goes out. It may end up being the case, as is often, there might not be anything to change, but I think it's important that we try and ensure that does happen. So if that request can be made, then I think it should be.
David Booth.
Oh, yep, thanks. And again, we're happy to look at that. I think that just the point I would reinforce is that the volume of work that's involved in this particular consultation might make it very difficult to meet those committees before Christmas. But we'll take away and we'll have a look at that, and we'll look at the options for putting in a submission after the next Climate Change Committee as well, if that's okay.
Councillor Clark.
Yeah, thank you to David for that. Just looking for clarity, that will be reflected in the minutes and what was agreed at the committee. I'm just looking to make sure there is clarity around that. Because I do understand David saying that they'll look at that, but I feel like it would be good to have stronger language around that reflected in the minutes.
It will be in the minutes.
Thank you.
Okay, so that was the final item. But before we close the meeting, I believe that this will be David Booth's final Climate Change and Sustainability Committee meeting. So I think we'd all want to wish him well when he escapes, or retires, sorry. And certainly I would personally want to thank him for all his support and help since I've been chair of the committee, as well as all his help in other ways as a councillor when I've had to contact him about various things. So yeah, I think we'd all just like to wish him very well with his retirement. Councillor Ross Clark.
Thank you, Chair, for allowing me. And I would like to take the opportunity on behalf of the SNP group, and I'm sure I speak on behalf of the whole committee to really thank David for his time as Executive Director and his time specifically on this committee. I certainly have really enjoyed working with him as the SNP spokesperson on this area. Has always been fantastic at engaging with any inquiries, engaging with myself and my group in the lead up to the committees. That support has been invaluable and really helps our work as elected members to scrutinise what's going on in the council, and the leadership is provided in this area and across the resource has also been invaluable. So I would like to again take that opportunity to really thank David for his work and wish him all the best in retirement. I'm not sure I'd describe it as escaping, although that David might have a different view on that. But again, I hope, David, you have a great retirement.
Yeah, David Booth.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for those very kind words. Listen, in terms of this committee itself, I think it would be wrong of me to take a great deal of credit for the work that happens in this committee. There's the officers that have presented reports this morning are absolutely fantastic. We've got a great team that's working this. You can see that from the quality of the reports and how they're presented, how they're received, and also, I suppose, as well as thanking them, I'd like to thank the elected members on this committee for the level of engagement and questioning that they put in. It really does make a difference. So my thanks go to them. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I've just been notified that Sage Coons has arrived, so we'll take item number 3, just take them before we end the meeting. Is she here? She's not here yet, but she's just coming. Right. Okay, well, we'll just move it to the next committee cycle then. Okay. Well, thank you all for your attendance today. That closes the meeting.